So I was born into a really incredible family. My father is a Presbyterian pastor. Really funny that I am a Presbyterian pastor, something I said I would never do, which I have a lot of those things I said I would never do. But a gracious family, and I was kind of that preacher's kid when people talk about, oh, preacher's kid. I mean, that was me. And not because my dad was a pastor or my parents are great people of faith, because I wanted to rebel. I made that decision and I did it for many years. And so a lot of my story was being around the church and being involved in the church, but really not getting the church, kind of thinking it was irrelevant and lame, and not really understanding the purpose of it. And so I left that church when I had the chance to do so in college, and really didn't care about the faith, was not active in it. Until later on in college, after a lot of bumps and bruises and mistakes, I saw a church that got outside of her four walls, that the church that was not kept into just programs in a space, but said we need to get outside the walls. And there was one person in particular who just sat in our fraternity house dining room, which who in their right mind, with kids and a wife, a middle-aged person, sit with a bunch of college kids, and there I am talking about all this kind of tomfoolery, just ridiculous shenanigan stuff that I'd done the night before, and kind of wondering, well, why was this almost bald guy, middle-aged dude, sitting and listening to us? And day after day, week after week, season after season, this guy named Hunter was just sitting in this fraternity house cafeteria. And I thought either this guy is really cool and special, or he's a loser, for hanging in a fraternity house. But what he was doing was showing us what it looked like to be the church outside the four walls. And I started to see what it looked like for the church to enter into the messiness of this world in a way that was truthful and gracious. And that's what Hunter did. And that's what I think the church is called to do, to be outside the four walls in the world, caring. And so my story is one of hating and loving the church, or just not thinking it had much of a role and thinking it has a huge role. Read the scripture, and God is using the church as a primary tool in his hand. He is, and I think he continues to do that, using the church, a imperfect, messed up bunch of people who are both holy as well. And so this is what God uses, the church. And so we are a messed up bunch of folks, but yet we get to participate in something that's it's deeply holy. And we do that here. We do that in our community. We do that in our neighborhoods. And we do that globally. And so now here I am, a pastor, a guy who said, I don't really want to be a part of a church. And then I don't really want to work in one, and did that for 16 years. And don't really want to go to seminary, and did that. And I really don't want to plant a church, and now I'm doing that. But so a lot of I nevers and never will I things I've said to God, and I think he kind of chuckles and turns everything on his head, and now, he listens, and, hey, Nate, it's good to hear what you won't do, and now here's what you'll do. All those things. And so all those things have come true. And I think Christ has great humor with me, but it's been this holy adventure of my story, of my calling. And there was times where, believe me, I tell these stories about my life, and my mom would definitely not laugh, or my dad. They want a laughing story. But now it's kind of funny that a lot of my friends from high school like, you do what? I'm like, I'm a pastor. Pastor, like a Christian pastor. Yeah, that's me. It's kind of hard to believe, but I think that's where the humor comes in, of that God's the one who writes the story, and we just are obedient to that. And so here we are, planning a church, doing a whole bunch of I nevers.